Please be seated. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite Mr. Chris Tobin, representative of the Darug people, to offer the traditional welcome to country. Mr. Tobin.
Thank you. Warami, and welcome to the lands of the Wallamedigal. I belong to one of the local Aboriginal families of the Darug people, the traditional custodians over this part of the country. I wish to thank the university for their acknowledgement of us and for the invitation to welcome you all here today. That acknowledgement is important for our people and much appreciated, particularly by our elders. My family in fact descend from Yarramundi, a respected elder and cleverman of the Burrabrongal clan during the early days of colonisation. He saw that our survival in this new world could best be secured if we could learn more about it. As such, he enrolled his daughter Maria into the Native Institution, a school set up in 1815 by Governor Macquarie himself, offering formal education to Aboriginal children. She studied there for several years and used her newly acquired skills to lobby and ultimately secure some land for herself and her family out along the Richmond Road. Other Aboriginal families soon joined them and became known as the Blackstown, where present-day Blacktown gets its name from. We are very proud of her, as I'm sure your families are of you here this morning. And with good reason. Your progress progresses us all. Your advancement is our advancement. Now, this was perhaps better understood in traditional times when camps were smaller and clans abided by the strict sharing laws, which meant that any food you brought back into camp was distributed throughout the rest of the community. That way your efforts, your good fortune literally nourished the rest of the community, and you were looked after by them in turn. Yes, we can live quite beautifully when we do it properly. Our Aboriginal ancestors certainly did in many respects, and I would offer them to yourselves as a model or a benchmark on how good you could expect your lives today. So when Captain Cook arrived a little south of here 200 years ago, he described the people he encountered there as the happiest people he'd ever met in the world. They had nothing, he wrote, but the tools that they carried. They made shelters from the bark of trees without cutting them down and harvested food from the earth without tilling it. In traditional times, everyone was accorded rights to the country or clan area that he or she was born into. So there was no homelessness and no rich or poor. Everyone had pretty much the same amount of stuff, what you could carry. There were no armies or jails or even police. We have no history of slavery or empire building, no kings. People cooperated to collect the resources that were needed, which were then shared out strictly according to Aboriginal law. Our lands were maintained in their natural states. The rivers were clean and unpolluted, with people drinking out of them as they have done here for the past 20,000 years. So this is not an ideal, this is normal life. It has been for thousands of years in this country. And there's no reason why we should expect less for ourselves or our children than what our ancestors enjoyed. True, we've got a couple of million more people sharing the country with us now, but we're clever people, as evidenced by you people in front. And so I would say expect great things from your future and do great things to secure it. And together we can all get this country back to the healthy, happy and just place it was known as. We can all do our bit. Now I'll do mine by winding up and letting you good people graduate. Just want to say congratulations to you all. Enjoy your day and all the best in our collective futures. Thank you. Yano.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to introduce the Chancellor of Macquarie University, the Honourable Michael Egan. Mr. Egan.
Thank you, Chris Tobin, for your welcome to country. Well, graduands, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's my very great privilege today as Chancellor of Macquarie University to preside at this very important ceremony. First, I welcome all of our graduands, and I hope that today will be a very happy and a very memorable occasion for all of you. Now, if it is to be a happy occasion, you all have to relax. There are some happy faces down there, but mainly they're worried and nervous faces, and I just want to assure you there's nothing to worry about. Nothing can go wrong. The worst thing that can happen is that you can trip and fall over on the stage. But if that does happen, we've got that under control. Our occasional speaker also has the job of picking you up, so don't worry. And I've discovered lots of people, as they walk over here, start wiping their hand. Look, don't worry if your hand's sweating, it's a bit clammy, because I'll let you into a secret. The same thing's happening to the person sitting next to you and the person behind you and the person in front of you. And I've shaken many a clammy hand in my life, and one more won't hurt me. So please relax. Have a great day, because you do deserve to enjoy today. You deserve to take pride in your graduation, because completing a degree is never easy. You need an intelligent and inquiring mind. You need determination and perseverance, and you need to make many sacrifices. So welcome and congratulations to each and every one of you. Today I also want to welcome, and especially welcome, those of you who are sitting behind our graduands as their invited guests. Because if you think about it for a moment or two, you've all obviously done very well also. The very fact that you're here, the fact that you've been invited by one of our graduands to share one of the great days of their lives, is proof positive that you've been very important in their lives and in the successes that we celebrate today. So mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, cousins, aunts and uncles, sons and daughters, grandmothers and grandfathers, friends, husbands and wives, partners, boyfriends, girlfriends, lovers or whatever you are, congratulations and thank you for celebrating this great occasion with us. And I don't want you to think either that observing today's graduation is the end of your role, because I have another very important service for you to perform for our newest graduates, as they will soon become. I want you to make sure that the degrees they receive today are never ever put in a bottom drawer, but are always proudly displayed in a position of prominence. In other words, if our graduates are too shy or self-effacing to proclaim their own success, you make sure you do it for them, whatever they say. Now, the ceremony that we're about to participate in is one of the world's oldest social rituals. For centuries, graduates have been donning robes just like the ones our graduands are wearing today, and participating in ceremonies just like this one. Indeed, there are some 50 universities in the world which can trace their history back more than 500 years. Now, I hope it won't come as a surprise to you to learn that Macquarie University is not one of those 50 universities. We're actually very young, only 48 years of age, but in those 48 years we've come a long way. We now have more than 130,000 Macquarie graduates living in more than 120 countries. Now, actually, that figure's a little bit out of date. That was the figure that was right a fortnight ago when we started this round of 21 graduations. At the end of today, we'll probably have about 136,000 Macquarie graduates living in more than 120 countries. Macquarie is a very modern and outward-looking university. We're always trying to engage with the world around us. We're regarded as one of Australia's leading research universities and are currently extending our research as we are our course offerings and facilities. On your way here this morning, you may have seen a lot of construction work taking place. That's the Australian Hearing Hub, which we're very proud of. You may also have seen our relatively new Macquarie University Hospital, opened about 18 months ago. We're the only university in Australia with its own university, with its own hospital. And of course, not only is it used to treat sick people, but it's also used by the staff and students in our Advanced School of Medicine. You might also have seen our library, which was opened last year, which I think is without doubt the best university library in Australia and the envy of every other university in the land. So we're looking forward and we're on the move. We want Macquarie always to be a leader in teaching and learning and a leader in the accumulation of knowledge and understanding. In other words, an ideal community of scholars. And graduands, in just a few minutes' time, it will be my very great honour to confer your degrees upon you and welcome you as lifelong members of that community of scholars we proudly call Macquarie University. Thank you.
Chancellor, I call on Ms Sarah Cottrell, who is graduating today with a Doctor of Philosophy, to speak on behalf of the graduating group. Ms Cottrell.
Chancellor, members of the university, fellow graduates and guests. When I was invited to give this speech, my first instinct was to decline politely. The reason for that was I didn't feel that I was a typical Macquarie graduate. And then I stopped to think a little and realised that there's probably no such thing as a typical Macquarie graduate because we all have our own stories. So today, I'd like to tell you a little of mine and encourage you to reflect on yours. In particular, I want to reflect on 3 questions about universities and university study. I'm going to be thinking back to my BA degrees, my graduate diploma, my master's degree, and this most recent experience, my PhD. And my first question is, how much did I enjoy each of those 3 experiences? Well, I actually didn't enjoy my BA at all. I think there were 2 reasons for that. One was that I was majoring in the wrong subject. That had something to do with family interests and my ignorance. But also, I think I was a lot more interested in what was going on outside the university than what was happening inside. Does that sound familiar to any of you? But after finishing my BA, I travelled to Europe and I began work as an English language teacher. And over the years, I realised that there was a lot about what I was doing that I didn't understand very well. So I decided I needed to learn more. And that sent me back to New Zealand, where I'm from, and it sent me into a graduate diploma in teaching English as a second language. Now, this time round, I was a very interested student. I loved my course, I loved reading, and I was actually a real nerd. At the end of every lecture, I would practically run to the library to read the latest issue of Applied Linguistics or TESOL Quarterly. I really was a nerd. The following year, I began work as a junior lecturer in the department where I had studied at Victoria University of Wellington, and at the same time enrolled for my master's degree in research. But this time, while I enjoyed the research, I found it very difficult to also be a university teacher and supervisor and do all the other things that are part of being an academic at the same time. And I made a decision then to never again do part-time study. That explains a very long gap between my MA, which I completed in 1990, and my PhD, which I completed last year. In August of 2008, I had a conversation with a very charming man on the stage, Associate Professor David Hall, from the Linguistics Department here at Macquarie University. And in that conversation, David encouraged me to apply for a position in the PhD program here. And very importantly, he also encouraged me to apply for a scholarship. Now that was very important because it meant that I could study my PhD full-time. So when it comes to enjoyment, I would have to say that the last 3 years have been the most enjoyable of my entire life. To study a PhD full-time, to be able to read as much as you want, to be able to think and to write and to engage with other scholars is indeed a privilege. So my point in reflecting on this first question is that sometimes it takes a while to discover what it is you're passionate about, what it is that you want to do. But once you discover it, learning can be a real joy. My second question is, what is the relationship between life experience and learning? Well, that's an interesting one for me to reflect on as well. When I started my BA, I was 17 years old. I had very little life experience and not a lot of learning experience. And so it was really more of a one-way process, the learning that I engaged in. But when I did my diptessel and when I studied for my master's degree, I had already been teaching and working for many years. So I was able to reflect on that experience and use it to consider the theories and the ideas that I was engaging with in my research. And that was a much richer experience. By the time I enrolled for my PhD in 2008, I'd been teaching in universities around the world for almost 30 years. And so I had a lot of experience to draw on. And I had a very good idea of how universities work. I think that's why it made it such a rich learning experience. 20 years went by between my MA and my PhD, but I wouldn't have wanted to do the PhD a moment sooner. The third question I want to reflect on is, what opportunities did each of those 3 degrees open up for me? Well, my BA changed my life in a very concrete way because it gave me the chance to move to France and begin teaching in a high school over there. But my diptessel and my MA changed my life, I think, in a more profound way because they opened me up to the world of research. Through my studies, I discovered research articles and books, individuals and groups around the world who were researching the very questions that I was passionate about and interested in. And then, as an academic myself, I became able to conduct and to publish my own research. My PhD provided yet another opportunity. It allowed me to step slightly sideways and to engage with a different and a new area of academic work. It allowed me to participate in new disciplinary conversations and engage with new ideas. But I feel very strongly that the privilege that study brings with it also certain responsibilities. And I feel very committed to sharing what I've learnt in the last 3 years, and indeed the last 30 years, through my teaching and my conversations and interactions with researchers around the world. I'd like to finish with a number of thank yous. Firstly, I want to thank Macquarie University for giving me this opportunity, and particularly my very wise and witty supervisor, David Hall. I would also like to specially thank the very vibrant community of doctoral researchers, both here at Macquarie and around the world, with whom I was able to engage in the last 3 years. Most importantly today, I want to acknowledge my whānau from New Zealand, Carlos, Ruth, and Anton, who have travelled over to support me, and also whānau and friends around the world. Congratulations to all of you who are graduating today, and to your families who have helped you arrive at this moment. May you enjoy your next experience of learning as much as I've enjoyed the last 3 years. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for sharing those fascinating reflections with us. I'm very glad that you chose Macquarie to do your PhD. Just because you've got 4 degrees doesn't mean you can't come back and do another one. You'd be most welcome. But it's good to know that people have come from New Zealand for the conferring of your doctorate. I'm told they're here, and I think they should stand up and take a bow. Where are they? Where are our New Zealand? No, stand up. That's it. Welcome. And the time will come when we beat you at football, I can assure you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the key part of the ceremony, the reason we're all here, and that is the conferring of degrees or doctorates, and there's a lot of new doctors down there. So if anyone's got a sore elbow or a sore knee, you'll be well looked after the graduation. They've, in fact, looking at some of their theses, I've got no idea what they mean, but I hope they can explain it to me later. But anyway, this is the key part of the ceremony, and it's the part which always makes me a bit nervous, because it's an awesome responsibility to confer a degree on someone, and I'm always afraid that I will make a dreadful mistake and give someone a degree who's not eligible to receive it. So for that reason, I always insist that the Deputy Registrar gives me an ironclad assurance that everyone here today has submitted all of their assignments on time, has never missed a class, has never had a library fine, and has passed all of their examinations. So, Deputy Registrar, can you give me that assurance, please?
Chancellor, I certify that all of the candidates being presented here today and those who are absent have satisfied the requirements of the Academic Senate for the degrees and diplomas they are to be awarded. Would all candidates for admission to degrees and diplomas please stand?
Yes, that's you. Well, graduands, in the name of the Council of Macquarie University and by my authority as Chancellor, I admit each of you present and those who are absent to the degrees or diplomas for which you have qualified. Graduates, congratulations.
Please be seated. Chancellor, the graduates at this ceremony are from the Faculty of Human Sciences. The faculty teaches courses and conducts research about people, investigating the how and the why. It is home to a number of internationally recognised research centres conducting groundbreaking research across disciplines in areas like cognitive science and early childhood education. Exciting opportunities exist for students and researchers alike. This faculty includes research and study areas in advanced medicine, education, linguistics, psychology, early childhood, and human cognition and brain science. Chancellor, I now call on Professor Janet Greeley, Executive Dean of the Faculty of Human Sciences, to present the graduates and diplomates. Professor Greeley.
Chancellor, I present to you the graduates and diplomates from the Faculty of Human Sciences whom you have admitted to degrees or awarded diplomas. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, Asil Al-Mekbel, for a thesis entitled Auditory Temporal Processing Ability and the Development of Speech, Language and Reading, Implications for Children with Auditory Neuropathy Spectrum Disorder. Scott Barnes, for a thesis entitled Aphasia and Topic Talk, a Case Study. Hannah Elizabeth Beiersman for a thesis entitled Morphological Processing in Adults and Children During Visual Word Recognition. Donna Louise Buterac for a thesis entitled Imagined Identity, Remembered Self, Settlement Language Learning and the Negotiation of Gendered Subjectivity. Sarah Maureen Cotterill, who has been awarded the Vice-Chancellor's Commendation for a thesis entitled Stories Within Stories, a narrative study of 6 international PhD researchers' experiences of doctoral learning in Australia. Andrea Holden Gady for a thesis entitled The Role of Catastatin in Central Cardiorespiratory Regulation. Sarah Hemley for a thesis entitled Experimental Studies into the Pathophysiology of Syringomyelia. Jung Wook Hung for a thesis entitled Intertextuality and McDonald's Discourse. Simon Christopher Humphreys for a thesis entitled Exploring the Impact of the Introduction of new EFL textbooks on the teachers' practices and attitudes at a technical college in Japan. Win Min To Lei for a thesis entitled The Reception of New Language Materials, a case study evaluation of an EFL textbook in Vietnamese high schools. Yatin Mahajan for a thesis entitled Maturation of Event-Related Potentials Across Adolescence. Keith Wan Ki Eng for a thesis entitled Pressure-Dependent Vascular Function and Structure in the Rat Aorta. Catherine Ann O'Grady, who has been awarded the Vice-Chancellor's Commendation for a thesis entitled The Nature of Expert Communication as Required for the General Practice of Medicine, a Discourse Analytic Study. Rebecca Kate Ardley Wegner for a thesis entitled Parameters of Context, From Theory to Model and Application. Ji Zhang for a thesis entitled Language Policy and Planning for the 2008 Beijing Olympics, an investigation of the discursive construction of an Olympic city and a global population. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Translating and Interpreting with the Master of Applied Linguistics, TESOL. Xin Bu. Shasha Liu. Teng Ma. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Translating and Interpreting with the Master of International Relations. Xiao Xiao Dong. Sayaka Hara. Lu Li. Ruyan Li. Lin Liu. Zhaoli Wu. Wenzi Yang. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Advanced Medicine, Abbas Hussain. Bruce Mark Jones. Candace Angela Newbury. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Master of Advanced Surgery, Elizabeth Daly. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Advanced Translation, Xu Hong. Tong Li. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Applied Linguistics, Satoshi Hamashima. Penelope Grace Leighton Casely. Lorraine Ann Neve, who has been awarded the Vice-Chancellor's Commendation for Academic Excellence. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Applied Linguistics, Language Program Management. Gamzi Ali Riza. Lydia Michelle Costa. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Master of Applied Linguistics, Teaching English for Specific Purposes. Halahapa Rumagi Nimal Janica Fonseca. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Applied Linguistics, TESOL. Wei Sim Chan. Maria Mercedes Griga. Sinam Sagula. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Clinical Audiology. Christopher Agolo Abuto. Na Kokwe Ama Anam. Angela Catherine Avenoso. Jessica Rose Bennett. Tammy Lee Campbell. Carmen Ariel Chan. Alana Jane Flenchy. Emma Claire Gialoris, who has been awarded the Vice-Chancellor's Commendation for Academic Excellence. Lynette Gray. Emma Karina Gugrich. Brittany Ann Hansel, who has been awarded the Vice-Chancellor's Commendation for Academic Excellence. Ayrton Michael Hogan. Mehreen Khan. Amy Jean McKibben. Sasha Frederica Penman. Rachel Louise Stafford. Alexandra Margaret Thompson. Christopher David Warren. Sakib Yaman. Amanda Rosemary Chin Pei Yap. Allison Stephanie Young. Tegan Brittany Young. Christopher Patrick Zammit. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Conference Interpreting. He who? Chuan Leng. Xiaobing Sheng. I present the graduate admitted to the degree of Master of Social Health, Hugo Abel Madrid. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Speech and Language Pathology, Kristen Elizabeth Bailey, who has been awarded the Vice-Chancellor's Commendation for Academic Excellence. Megan Sarah Bear. Alexandra Carmel Bourdignon. Hiba Shabal. Lillian Tess Gemmell. Charlene Tamara Gunasekara. Lucy Mikola Kleen. Rebecca Lee Lockhart. Laura Philippa Marshall. Andrea Kiera McDermott. Leah McManus. Kelly Elizabeth Reed. Jessica Lee Rennie, who has been awarded the Vice-Chancellor's Commendation for Academic Excellence. Kelly Ann Rombo. Dana Elizabeth Soden. Mei Sing Tan. Whitney Jane Thorpe. Rosina Maria Vumbaka. Michelle Stella Wyke. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Surgery. Christian Gragagnello. Stavros Kousteas. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Master of Translating and Interpreting. Qingling Dong. Arum Kim. Edith Chunwei Lau. Beini Liu. Wenjiao Lu. Yao Lu. Yi Wei Lu. Xia Peng. Bojo Song. Alison Paula Walden. Bo Ya Wu. Jundu Yang. Yanyi Zhang. Lan Shang. I present diplomates awarded the postgraduate diploma in Auslan English Interpreting. James Ronald Bicken. Philippa Caradis. Kelly Hodgins. Evelyn Jane Pateman. Bridget Anya Strid. I present the diplomates awarded the postgraduate diploma in editing and publishing. Graham Leslie Clayton. Rochelle Fernandez. Diana Catherine Ingram. Meredith Jane McGowan. I present the diplomates awarded the postgraduate diploma in social health. Belma Kimet Kosh. Karen Marino. T.I. Hien Win. Jyotika Shankar. I present the diplomates awarded the postgraduate diploma in translating and interpreting. Soleil Lee. Young Oh. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Corey James Bill. Sharon Elizabeth Brady. Karen Ann Greenalge. Jessica Yuen Yi Lung. Penny Mei Yan Lung. Buan Tai Lim. Kijero Muzatani. Jill Patricia Owen. Anna Stelter. Catherine Patricia Thomas. Stephanie Ursino. I present graduates admitted to the degree of Bachelor of Speech and Hearing Sciences. Jessica Danielle Allen. Lauren Azopardi. Mitchell Ross Bowie. Angela Boylan. Kaylee Brown. Michaela Helena Cooper. Dale Coyle. Melissa Ann Egan. Laila Amelina Haji Ali. Trista Mutia Hatta Kasum. Amy Lee. Scott Keith McIntosh. Kelly Marie Miles. Carrie Ann Miller. Jessica May Noonan. Dana, ready? Dana J. Pollard. Catherine Ann Ross. Benjamin David Shearman. Marielle Therese Smith. Maria Tripodi. Cordelia Ravina van Alst. Chancellor, that completes this morning's presentation of the graduates and diplomates from the Faculty of Human Sciences.
Well now, did you like that? I thought you might. Would you like... That was Angela Brewer, ladies and gentlemen. She has a magnificent voice. Would you like to hear a little bit more from Angela? Okay, well, no, don't get carried away. All you have to do is enrol in another degree and she'll be singing at your next graduation, I promise you. I think Angela deserves another great round of applause. As do our musicians, Dr. James Forsyth, our organist. And our Chinese flutist, Mr. Chai Chang-ning. And sitting over there next to James are some of our alumni volunteers who come along to make sure that everything goes smoothly at your graduation. So I'm sure you'd like to thank them too. Now, as part of this graduation ceremony, we are also honouring a member of staff from the Faculty of Human Sciences who has made outstanding contributions to student learning at Macquarie University. I now call upon Professor Judith Sachs, Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Macquarie University, to read the citation. Professor Sachs.
Chancellor, it gives me great pleasure to invite Associate Professor Amanda Barnier to come forward. Associate Professor Amanda Barnier is the 2011 winner of the Vice-Chancellor's Award for Excellence in Higher Degree Research Supervision. Associate Professor Barnier models the attributes of a highly successful research-only academic. She's a qualified supervisor with honours and HDR students, in addition to co-supervising with colleagues. Associate Professor Barnier attracts high-calibre students, then supervises them to successful on-time or under-time submission. Her process to achieve this success is a flexible mix of apprenticeship, peer mentoring and career coaching. Associate Professor Barnier organises regular meetings with her students to monitor progress, which become more frequent at pressure points. She also keeps an open door and works with students to find solutions for both professional and personal issues influencing the success of their candidature. Spreading the influence beyond herself, she also sets up lab meetings and reading groups to provide broader support for her students. She teaches and instills soft skills such as text writing, project and time management, conference organising, networking, manuscript editing and teaching. Her students emerge as fully rounded academics. Associate Professor Barnier continues this mentoring after graduation via face-to-face catch-ups as well as email and Skype. Chancellor, I present to you a worthy recipient of the 2011 Vice-Chancellor's Award for Excellence in Higher Degree Research Supervision, Associate Professor Amanda Barnier from the Macquarie Centre for Cognitive Science.
Well, graduates and ladies and gentlemen, it's now my pleasure to introduce our occasional speaker, Professor Stephen Crane. Now, Professor Crane is the director of the ARC Centre of Excellence in Cognition and its Disorders. The ARC Centre of Excellence investigates 5 areas of cognition: language, reading, belief formation, memory and person perception. Professor Crane is the program leader of the Language Project. For the last decade, Professor Crane's research has focused on children's acquisition of semantic knowledge, in particular young children's knowledge of logical expressions. Much of this has been cross-linguistic research with a particular focus on Mandarin Chinese. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Crane.
Good morning. I'd like to acknowledge the presiding officer and chancellor, the Honourable Michael Egan, and the Deputy Vice Chancellor and Provost, Professor Judith Sachs. Members of the faculty, staff, distinguished guests, graduates, and their families and friends. As I'm not often called upon to make this type of speech, I sought advice from a member of the clergy about my role as a speaker. He told me, "Your role is like the corpse at a wake. The event can't be held without you, but you're not expected to say much." So I'll be brief. I simply want to comment on 3 characteristics of a university graduate: curiosity, principles, and knowledge. First, curiosity. Much of our intellectual history shows the stamp of the curious mind. It took a curious mind to discover that the sun, not the earth, stood still. It took a curious mind to discover that water, as it gets colder, all of a sudden turns to ice, and that as water gets warmer, all of a sudden it turns to steam. It took a curious mind to realize that music does not have to be tonal. As a music critic once said, atonal music is better than it sounds. It took a curious mind to accept that royalty should not get all the perks, and that women should be entitled to vote, and so on. Now, these ideas emerged from the minds of people who were unwilling to take for granted things that other people did take for granted. These people saw that there was something to explain in what seemed to others to require no explanation. These people saw that accepted ways of doing things were not the only ways of doing things. In my own field, linguistics, a new curiosity was required to discover the common properties of human languages. I remember once pointing out to one of my classes that linguistics is sometimes about the properties that human languages don't have, rather than about the properties that human languages have. The example I used was negation. So as you probably know, in some languages, 2 negatives combine to form a single negative. For example, even in English, we can say, Max didn't have no fun, and it can mean Max didn't have fun. And sometimes 2 negatives combine to make a positive. And this is common in languages like Mandarin Chinese, but even in English, we can say things like, Max didn't not have fun, and that means that Max did have fun. But as I instructed my class, there is no human language in which 2 positives ever make a negative. Without missing a beat, a student in the back row said, yeah. Of course, questioning what is taken for granted can lead you to adopt unpopular, even revolutionary ideas. And this brings me to the second virtue of a university education: principles. A curious mind needs guiding principles. As you grow older, you will lose the natural conservativity of youth, as I have, and you will start to adopt radical and revolutionary ideas. You need to determine which of those ideas are worth fighting for and how far you are prepared to go to prosecute them. You should prosecute them to the fullest. Seeking truth and social justice are the responsibilities of intellectuals. These are your responsibilities and mine. Of course, flexibility is a good principle, as Groucho Marx pointed out when he declared, "These are my principles, and if you don't like them, I have others." This brings me to the last hallmark of our educational system: knowledge. Your experience at Macquarie University has been about information and its uses. In your chosen field of study, you've been exposed to facts, to methods, and to the appropriate creative processes. So you now know how to equip yourselves with the requisite information and skills in your area of expertise. You have the teachers at Macquarie University to thank for the fact that your degree also includes knowledge of resources that are broadly applicable to the modern world. How to locate and exploit databases, how to cast a critical eye over information sources, how to avoid the traps in reasoning that have seriously bedeviled intellectual progress in the past. From this day forward, graduates, all you need to know is everything. Of course, Macquarie University didn't teach you everything because we didn't have time. As an Oxford scholar once said, when faced with a book review, he could either review the book or read it, but he didn't have time to do both. Well, Macquarie University didn't have time to teach you everything, but what we did teach you is how to think, how to use your brain to acquire new knowledge. According to the celebrated American lexicographer Ambrose Bierce, the brain is an apparatus with which we think that we think. Thinking and using your brain is the lasting contribution of your university education. In the modern world, citizens can't responsibly ignore existing or looming issues, such as climate change, population growth, the worldwide rise in personal wealth, and the consequent pressures on our limited resources. These problems call out for fresh ways of thinking. These issues and problems call out for a profound trust in science and in the scientific method. And they call out for a staunch refusal to take for granted the inevitability of the way things are. These problems call out for women and men of sound and robust principles with well-informed minds and a curious nature. Most of all, the future calls for women and men that accept their responsibilities as intellectuals. It's often said that universities are shelters of knowledge, where research is conducted for its own sake, without regard to social issues. This is wrong. The university provides the responsible intellectuals of each new generation, people who can take what they've learned at university and apply it to social problems. For this reason, more than any other, I am proud to be a teacher at Macquarie University. To conclude these brief remarks, I'm delighted to offer you all congratulations on your achievements as graduates of Macquarie University. The things that this university stands for and that all universities stand for are things that will make us proud of what you will become and what you will contribute to our society and to our world. In closing, I'd like to thank you for attending today's ceremony and for letting me share this important day with you. Thank you.
Well, contrary to what Professor Crane led us to expect at the beginning, he had a lot to say, and it was worth listening to. I think you'll all agree that that was an outstanding occasional address. And by the way, we have many professors at Macquarie University, but we only have a handful who have bestowed upon them the title of Distinguished Professor. And Professor Crane is one of them, and I think you could see why listening to him this morning. I think he deserves another great round of applause. Well, graduates, this ceremony marks the end of one stage in your relationship with Macquarie University, but it is certainly not the end of your association with Macquarie. From today on, for the rest of your lives, you are part of the bigger Macquarie family, which is our alumni, and part of the network of Macquarie alumni, which now spans the globe. We'll keep in touch with you through our alumni program, which is focused on lifelong learning, lifelong support, and lifelong connections. Our commitment to you is to help you keep in touch and engaged with Macquarie throughout your life. And please, graduates, do make sure you come back to Macquarie, either to undertake more study, to attend alumni events, or perhaps use our aquatic and fitness facilities, or even on nice days to enjoy a picnic by the lake. Well, graduates, the award of a university degree carries many opportunities and privileges. But like all privileges, it also carries responsibilities. Believe it or not, you, each and every one of you, can change the world. And you don't have to be a Nobel Prize winner to do it either. Because almost everything you do, in your homes, in your workplaces, and in your communities matters and can make a huge difference. The consequences of every effort, every action, large or small, can reverberate through society, through the decades, indeed through the centuries. Indeed, something as simple as a kind word or a kind gesture can often be the spark that ignites a great life or a great career or a great achievement. So as Chancellor of Macquarie University, I charge you to use what you have learned, not only for your own betterment, but also for the benefit of the community. I charge you to use the skills and knowledge you have acquired with rigour and integrity, and to commit yourselves to a program of lifelong learning and inquiry. I charge you to recognise the worth and dignity of all people, particularly those who have not had the opportunities that you've enjoyed. I charge you to set high goals and to continue the hard work that has brought you so far. I charge you, wherever you go, to go with all your heart. And in all you do, I charge you to uphold the good name of Macquarie University. Now, graduates, I hope that you'll also always remember the people who have helped you along the way, many of whom, of course, are here with you today. So, to thank them for their contribution, I'm now going to ask you to do a couple of things for me. First, I'd like the graduates now to please stand. Now, I'd like you to put your degrees on the seats behind you. And I'd like you to turn around to face your families and your friends. And now I invite you to give them a mighty round of applause. Okay, you can turn around now, but don't sit down because we'll be heading out in just a moment. Well, ladies and gentlemen, oh, by the way, behind me, of course, are representatives of our academic staff who have also helped you along the way, and I'm sure you'd like to give them a big round of applause too. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the official party will now leave the courtyard through the centre aisle and will be followed by all of the graduates. I would invite you all to now please stand, and please remain standing until the last of the graduates have processed out. And then I invite you to join us at the University Court for some light refreshments. Well, graduates, I wish you the very best for the future. And in the words of the old Irish blessing, may the road rise up to meet you, may the wind always be at your back, may the sun shine warm upon your face and rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Thank you and good luck.